What's up, lovely people? Welcome back to my channel. In this video I'll be showing you how to make a pattern for a bomber jacket. If you've not seen this video, if you don't know how to do it, please stick on, watch this video to the end, and make sure that you subscribe if you're not yet subscribed, and also give me a giant thumbs up if you liked this video, and do well to recommend this video to your friends and also this channel as well. Also put on the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I post a new video. Now moving forward to this pattern itself, what you'll be needing is just your hip circumference and the length of the jacket, and also you'll be needing a pattern paper, your pattern master, tape rule, markers, and your scissors. Okay, so you know what a bomber jacket looks like. It's mostly very loose, so to my hip measurement I'm going to be adding extra 2 inches just so that I have enough room inside the jacket. So first off, on my pattern paper I'm going ahead to mark a straight line at the edge just to serve as a guide for the beginning of the measurements that I'll be taking. On that line I'm going to take my shoulder measurements, and from that line I'm going to come down and take my waist measurements and also mark my hip measurements. Now for this video I'm going to be also using my waist measurement, and the reason for that is that I'm going to be using that to find the placement for where I want the pocket to sit on. So for the length of this bomber jacket I have 23 inch, so I will recommend you don't go below that. Just make sure that it's not too short or too long. Just find the placement in between your hip and the upper hip and your lower hip. So I've gone ahead to just draw out a straight line on my waistline and also on my hip line. Next up, after that, I'll go back to my shoulder line and also mark my shoulder slope. So I'll take 1 inch below the shoulder line, and from that 1 inch I'm going to place my tape and take my armhole line. So for the armhole I'm going to be making use of 8 inches just because I want this to be very free and loose on my body. So next up I'm just going to draw a line to square up that line for the armhole line, and then also I'm going to just connect the line upwards to meet the 1 inch slope that I took for the shoulder. For my neck width I'll be taking 3 inches, and for the neck depth I'll also be taking 3 inches. So I'll take 3 inch for the neck width and 3 inch for the neck depth for the front and for the back. So I'm just doing that. I'm just creating room for where I'm going to be placing my neck circumference on, to be placing my neck curve on, So I've taken my pattern master and I'm just connecting that lines like so on that little square that I created at the edge of my paper. Next up, after that, I'm going to just go ahead and use my tape to also mark the neck depth for the back, and for the back I'll be making use of 1 inch, and I'll do the same thing. I'll use my curve and just curve that out. So next up, after that, I'm going to just take my straight ruler and connect from that neck width to the 1 inch slope that I took for the shoulder to create that shoulder slant that we are all familiar with. So moving forward, after that, I'm just going to place my hip circumference on my bust line and also on my waistline and on my hip line. So like I said, you don't need to add any dots or any shape to this pattern because you're just going to be drawing one straight line from the bust line down to the hip line. So it's just going to be like a square. You're not adding dots to it, you're not adding any shape to it, nothing like that. So same thing, I'll mark that whatever measurement I have on my hip line, I'll place that on my waist and also on my bust line, and I'm going to just connect that with a straight line, and that is it for the front and the back. It's as simple as that. And next up, we'll just go ahead and mark the armhole curve. So because this is a jacket, I wouldn't need to be going in the front by ½ an inch or quarter of an inch. All you need to do is to place your pattern master on the shoulder line, on the armhole line, and just give it a curve up until where the straight line connects to. So that is basically what I've done here. I've just given it that curve. So next up, after that, I'm just going to place my seam allowances all around. But before I do that, I'm going to first of all cut out, after placing the seam allowances, I'm going to cut out the back and then I'll move over to the front to do a little bit of adjustment to the front and also to the back as well. Before cutting out this pattern, I'm going to go ahead and take a fresh pattern paper and mark 1 inch for zipper allowance. You know that on a bomber jacket you always see a zipper in front or a button, so I'm going to make an extension for a zipper. I'll be making use of a zipper for this pattern, so I'll make 1 inch extension for the zipper. I've gone ahead to mark that 1 inch on a new pattern paper, and I connected it all the way from the edge of the paper, from the top of the paper down to the bottom of the paper. And I'm going to take the paper I already drafted my pattern on. I'm going to place it on this paper, and I will be cutting out the back before cutting out the front. Now before I cut it out, I'll make sure that I place the edge of the paper at the edge of the 1 inch that I marked on the new pattern paper that I just placed right now. And then I'm going to go ahead, add seam allowances all around it. Make sure that you have all your seam allowances, 1/2 inch seam allowances all around it, on the neckline, on the shoulder line, on the armhole, and also at the sides as well. So now that I've done that, I'll go ahead and cut out my pattern. So this is it. I've cut out my pattern, and this is the front, and that is the back. Next up, after that, I'm going to take the front panel and draw a straight line on the waistline, and the essence of that line is just so that I can get the placement of my pocket. So I'll take half of my bust span and I'll place it there on that half of my bust span. I'm going to just go ahead and draw the pattern of pocket that I want and how I want the pocket to sit at the front of my pattern. So I've gone ahead to do that, and now that I've done that, I've created the Welt pocket. You know that shape that a Welt pocket usually have. I'll just go ahead and draw it, just so that when I am about to cut this on my pattern or transfer it on my pattern, on my fabric, I already know where the pocket is going to sit and how the shape is going to look like on my fabric when I'm about to make this jacket. So on my pattern for the front, I'll take 3 inches from the edge of the pattern, from the bottom of the pattern upward, and the 3 inches is for the band that you usually see at the bottom of a bomber jacket, and also it's also going to be for the insect. So for the insect from the zipper allowance, I'll take 3 inches, and due to the fact that the band is very stretchy, I'm going to also take away 3 inches from the lower part of those bodies, just so that when you place the band on your fabric, when you are about to sew it, it stretches out nicely, and also it creates a little bit of gathering that you are familiar with on a bomber jacket. So I've done that. I took 3 inches for the insect, and I took away 3 inches from the lower part of the bodies, just to create room for the band to sit nicely at the bottom of the jacket. So I've done that, and I'm going to go ahead and label out what each of the part is. The first part is the insect, and the second is the band for the jacket. After this, I'm going to go to the back and do the same thing that I did for the front. Do also make sure that while you cut this out, you are cutting it on fold. You are cutting the insert on fold, and you are also cutting your band on fold. And also make sure that you add seam allowances at the edge of the fold. After you folded, make sure that you add seam allowances at the open side of the fold. And also the same thing for the insert, make sure that you add seam allowance, 1/2 inch seam allowance, just so that you'll be able to join the bottom, the band, and the main bodies together. And also at the main bodies, make sure that you add 1/2 inch seam allowance as well. So I've gone ahead to cut out this pattern. I have my insect and I have the band. I'm just going to highlight it, make it a little bit bolder so that you can see. Like I said, you'll be cutting this on fold, and you place 1/2 inch on the top part of the edge where you are not cutting on fold. So for the back, we'll do the same thing we did for the front. I'm going to spread open my back, and on the lower part of the pattern I'll mark 3 inches from the down upward, and then I'll draw a straight line. After drawing a straight line on the lower part, after marking 3 inches, next up at the edge, that is at the side seam of the back pattern, I'm going to take 3 inches from both side seams. So for the back, I'll take 3 inch from one side and 3 inch from the other side, and those 3 inches I'll be cutting that out. So that will be for the band as well. So the essence of cutting out 3 inch from either sides of the band is also, like I said, the band is very stretchy. It's a very stretchy polo fabric, and you know how polo fabrics are, they are very stretchy. So in order for it to accommodate all of the sides of this band, of the down part of this jacket, you need to take away some inches from your jacket, just so that when you attach your band to your jacket, it sits nicely on your jacket, and it also has a little bit of gathering at the bottom. So I've done that. I've cut out the 3 inch that I marked, and I'll also cut out 3 inch at either sides of the band. So moving forward, after that, I'm just going to place the band side by side, join them together, just so that you know that you are cutting the front and the band, the front and the back band together on one straight long piece. So you're not cutting the front separate from the back, you're cutting the back and the front together. So in order to do that, I will go ahead and place the front band, cut out another piece for the front, and then I'll place it at the other sides of the back band, just so that we join them together. And when we place it on our fabric, we are just cutting out one long straight piece for the band. I hope you understand what I mean. So that's what I've just done. You can see in the video I cut out another piece for the front band, and I'm going to just take a sellotape and just join these parts together. And so when you place it on your fabric, you are cutting just one straight piece for the front and the back, and that will be it. The same thing I'll do for the insect for the front. Remember, I only have one piece. I'm also going to cut out another piece for the front insect, just so that when you cut this, make sure that you cut it on fold. So after that, next up, we are going to move over to the neck. So for the collar, what you need to do is to place a straight line on a pattern paper, and next up, on one edge of the straight line, you're going to go up by half an inch at one edge of the paper, and then you're going to be placing your neck measurement on that line. So you need to measure your front and your back neckline, and whatever you have there, you divide it by 2 and you place the figure on the line. Because you are going to be folding it into 2, you're cutting this piece on fold, that is why we divided it by 2. And next up, on that half an inch we took upward, we're going to be taking 1.5 inch upward again. This will be for the length of the collar, and we're going to just mark that down. Now for the shape of the collar, what you need to do is take your ruler. Also, before you do that, you also transfer that 1.5 inch we took upward from the 1/2 inch and place it on the straight line at the other side of the paper, and then you take your ruler and connect to the 1/2 inch all the way straight to the edge of the other line, and then also to the other side of the line. So our collar is ready. All you need to do is make sure that you cut this on fold, add your seam allowance at the edge, and that will be it for the collar. Now for your sleeve, if you've not seen a video on how to cut a basic sleeve, I'll leave it in the description box so that you can go and check it out. So basically what I've done here is I've placed the length of my sleeve, and also I've placed the calf height for the sleeve. Now I'm not going to be doing the wrist and the ankle because I want some kind of gathering at the sleeve, so I'm going to leave it at a straight line, at a boxy shape. I'm just going to go ahead and mark the necessary sleeve measurements. At the top of the sleeve, I will just create the armhole line, and that will be it for the sleeve. So you don't need to go in much on the sleeve, because the front and the back, they are going to look the same. You really do not need much of an adjustment for your sleeve. All you need to do is to get your armhole line, get the back armhole, and that will be all for the sleeve. And next up, you can just go ahead and add seam allowance all around the pattern, and we are done with the sleeve. Now, after cutting out the sleeve, this is all of my pattern piece. I've placed them side by side against each other. I have also gone ahead to label out what each of the piece is, just so that when we are ready to couple up this piece together on the fabric, we know what is what and what goes where. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you want to see the sewing tutorial, please stay tuned and watch till the end. I hope you like, and please do not forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.